breaking news today.
Please subscribe and then check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
Years just came out. Liberals will always be the first to accuse Republicans of racism but are often discovered to be the true racists. Not only do Democrats call for the death of all Republicans for supporting President Trump, but they also have a history of flat-out racism towards minorities they swear to love. Liberals are hypocrites and love to point fingers at conservatives for crimes they themselves are often the ones committing. A perfect example of such blatant hypocrisy is the racist past of Chuck Schumer, who has always been the one to call Republicans racist. Schumer loves to call Trump out for being prejudiced, but recently some damning information has been revealed that will prove who the real racist is. Conservative talk show host Larry Elder explains Schumer's racist past. When Schumer first started his political career as a New York State Assemblyman in 1974, he drew up a racist plan to push blacks out of a white neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. Schumer convinced everyone living in the neighborhood that if they supported him, he would take care of them. Unfortunately for those people who believed him, Schumer never had any intention of helping them out and had always planned to get rid of them. As The Spectator documented, the Flatbush section of Brooklyn entire segment is populated by whites, mostly Italians and Jews, with a recent influx of Slavic immigrants. Right smack dab in the middle of this box is a series of apartment houses on Avenue K, from E. 12th to E. 15th Street, whose tenants are almost 100% black. There existed, and to an extent still exists, a fear, perhaps a paranoia, that this cluster of black people in the heart of the neighborhood was rendering it unsafe. Then the word went out that there was a plan to evict all the blacks. A local political kingmaker set up a round of meetings with community groups to introduce them to a recent Harvard grad, Charles Schumer, who had fashioned a solution to this nagging problem. Although I was only 16 years old at the time, I was entering Brooklyn College and had long been a confirmed political junkie. Being that young, I was more or less invisible to the adults who were engaged in these momentous matters, so I was able to slip into one of these sessions unhampered. What Schumer explained to these audiences was as follows: if they elected him to the state assembly, he would put forth a bill that would create a set of provisions, ostensibly to help the underprivileged urban blacks. It would identify those apartment buildings on Avenue K as being in a state of some dilapidation, requiring an extensive facelift and revamping of the apartments. Schumer pretended to be helping black people, but in reality, he was only hurting them. He wasn't done though, and what he did next really hurt people. What Schumer did next was horrible. Black residents would then all be relocated into government or government-subsidized housing. At the end of the process, the individual apartments would be redefined as co-ops or condominiums to be sold to private owners. Although on paper the current tenants would be given priority for the right to purchase the newly upgraded condos, we could be sure that the blacks would not be able to raise the cash required, which would be not inconsiderable. Chuck Schumer's actions prove he isn't looking out for blacks but instead is only using them for the votes. Schumer is using the age-old Democrat strategy of lying to minorities, promising hope but end up delivering nothing but misery and poverty. It's the way Democrats have managed to stay in power so long. They are nothing but liars and snakes. Jimmy Carter was another Democrat who promised great things for African Americans but only brought them more suffering. The beloved and idolized former president admitted in his own 1982 book, Keeping Faith, that he was not involved in the early struggles to end racism, discrimination, and actually supported segregation. When Carter returned to Plains, Georgia, after serving in the Navy, he became a member of the Sumter County School Board, which did not implement the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education, a decision handed down by the Supreme Court. Instead, the board continued to segregate school children on the streets of Carter's hometown. Carter's board tried to stop the construction of a new elementary Negro school in 1956. Local white citizens had complained that the school would be too close to a white school. As a result, the children, both colored and white, would have to travel the same streets and roads in order to reach their respective schools. The prospect of black and white children commingling on the streets on their way to school was apparently so horrible to Carter that he requested that the state school board stop construction of the black school until a new site could be found. In 2015, Carter tried to pander to blacks and pretended to be disgusted with racist American tendencies and the mistreatment of blacks by law enforcement. The recent publicity about mistreatment of black people in the judicial and police realm has been a reminder that the dreams of the civil rights movement have not been realized, Carter said in an interview published by AARP Bulletin. As you can see, Schumer is in good company when it comes to discrimination against blacks. And like Jimmy Carter and countless other Democrats, Schumer built his career on favoring whites over blacks. It's just the way Democrats work. Spread this story to more people so we can get the word out about Schumer.